Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Podiatry Marketing Podcast. With me, as usual, is Big Jim Mack, and he is here today to share his wisdom. Hello, Jim. How you doing?
That's a lot of pressure. I hope I can live up to the, hopefully it's not just
So
information, but
much.
wisdom. So I
So
hopefully I
much. I don't
provide.
want information. I want wisdom.
We'll see what we can do. I'm not going to overpromise and under deliver, hopefully. So,
The listeners need wisdom. So, what are we talking about today?
yeah. So in the past, we've talked a bit about, why you would want to, put out patient educational newsletters. But today we're going to get a little bit more tactical as far as like how to do it. I think sometimes, it's nice to know why you should do things, but, kind of creating a workflow or, how to kind of structure something can be of benefit. So yeah, we're going to talk about, patient email newsletters and kind of the way I think that they should be structured because these newsletters can be a real benefit to help educate your patients in a lot of different things that you do and how you put it together in a way that we can talk a little bit about the different types of email kind of providers there are out there. But the more you know the details about these things, the easier it is to get your list of 1,000 to 10,000 patients who have opted in to receive communications from you. Hopefully, these emails will lead to patient appointments from existing patients, and then new patient appointments as well that maybe they heard about you from one of their neighbors or one of their family members who get your email newsletter.
Makes sense. So, where do we start with it? Where would you start your
Yeah,
newsletter?
so I think it starts off with kind of like, okay, what kind of software should people use? That's kind of like that's great that you want me to make a newsletter, but how do I even, like what does that entail? Do I use my Gmail? Like what should I use?
Yeah.
And no, you shouldn't use your Gmail. You should use a kind of some software that's made for this purpose. And I think some electronic medical records, in the United States, that's what we call it in Canada, kind of, but if you have kind of where you do your patient charting, some of these different systems are developing more robust ways to send educational emails. I'll also like let you know we're not talking about recalls today. So this is not something to be aware or you're not going to be sharing any kind of critical or personal information of your patients. But so you can kind of send these as almost you hear sometimes the term which I don't really like called email blasts. But you can
Yeah.
send these kind of personalized newsletters that don't in the United States and in Canada doesn't violate HIPAA, but at the same time, you want to get some software. So if let's say your medical records is software is kind of old school and doesn't really include it, utilizing something like ConvertKit or Beehive or Tyson, what do you use for your email newsletter?
I use Campaign
Yeah,
Monitor.
so Campaign Monitor. There's a bunch of different ones out there, but
They're all very similar. I know one of the main CRM programs that a lot of podiatrists use in their clinics. There's a few of them actually, and they link through to MailChimp.
okay.
It's just an automatic thing. You collect email addresses, and then they can do their newsletter straight through MailChimp, and the two can actually talk to each other.
Yeah,
So, but
I
yeah,
can.
but they all work. And I've looked at MailChimp and Campaign Monitor. They all work technically the same way, and I call it like just intuitive learning. Just push buttons and see what happens. It's not, you can't stuff it
Yeah,
up.
I mean, like the probably toughest thing for some people is to export that CSV or that database file where they can upload the emails into one of those systems. Sometimes, like you said, they can connect it through an API sometimes, but getting that email software where you can send things is kind of that first step. Because what it's going to do, not only does it help you write the emails, but it's going to help you kind of style. You can kind of create something that looks like your brand or something that looks like your website on these to make sure that you have a template made. If you can't do the template yourself, maybe someone in your staff does, maybe you're working with a marketing provider that can kind of help you develop or build that initial template. And then it's kind of plug and play from there because I think there's really
Yeah.
like three sections to a good podiatry clinic newsletter that every clinic should have. So
What are those sections?
I thought you'd never ask. Um,
Oh yes. Well, should we have an introduction then?
Yeah, well, the first section is really like about a section that educates your patients about all the care you provide. We've talked about this previously. You're sitting in your clinic all day, so is your staff. You know all the things that you like to do, but your patients don't. They maybe they came to you to see you for an ingrown toenail, or a bunion surgery or heel pain, but they didn't know that you did, sports medicine or orthotics. So this
I've been caught out on that a few times.
so this is a huge opportunity, right? So you really
Yeah.
want to utilize kind of your current network, whether it's 1,000 emails or 10,000 emails, to help them know that you treat all of these different things. Because not only can they learn about that for themselves, but maybe their grandson or their neighbor or a friend from work has some of these issues. And if they bring it up to them, like, hey, I know that Tyson Franklin does these things, or Dr. Smith in our hometown does these things. I saw it in the newsletter. It can be a great way to help educate your patients about all the different types of treatment and services you have. But I will note that, don't make it too overly medical or kind of scientific sounding. You really need to make sure that it's kind of in a patient voice. In a previous podcast, we talked a little bit about utilizing AI in some different ways. And, sometimes if you set that, maybe you have it's like some copy or some text that you want to, this is how you think it should be written. But then you can, pop it into AI and say, make this at a ninth grade level or eighth grade level or something. It will help kind of, make it sound a little bit more like patient voice and a lot less like someone that went to podiatry school or went to residency.
Yeah, I've seen people put stuff into AI and they say, make it sound like Scooby Doo. And it's surprising. It will then go like Scooby Doo. It'll also talk like Shaggy, and it'll sound like Shaggy. So you could easily say, I want it to read someone at a grade 10 level of high school. Keep it simple, and it will automatically dumb it down. Isn't the right word, but it'll just make it easy to read.
Yeah, it's just more in that patient voice because, we went to school, we were in our clinics all day and we maybe talk to our colleagues or sometimes talk to our staff in ways we would not talk to patients. So just imagine you're talking to a patient, trying to explain to them. Also, what can be helpful is that, if you're living in an area where, video or written testimonials are an opportunity, this is an opportunity to put that front and center too. Maybe it's not you just explaining about plantar fasciitis, but maybe it's a video of one of your patients who's gone through the kind of the diagnosis, the treatment, and the recovery from the plantar fasciitis, and is willing to give you either a written review or a video review, and kind of putting that front and center. Because even a lot of email newsletters these days will allow you to embed video or link out to a video. So I think that can
Oh
be a
yeah,
huge thing. Along with, if you do just have, you're not going to like write out, 500 words here. It should be a relatively short paragraph and maybe link to that that section of your website about heel pain or about orthotics or about ingrown toenails. So it helps kind of push people over to your website as well.
yeah. I used to find that really helpful with their podiatry one, was having just a paragraph and one or two paragraphs about a topic, and then a sentence said read more. And you knew if you hit the right topic, because you would get a lot of patients clicking on the read more and going straight to your website. And then from your website, they could read more information. And then from there, your website, as you should have a call to action.
Absolutely.
So then they actually do something. And it's surprising, as patients are coming, you could tell if you had done it right, because whatever you had promoted in your newsletter, you tend to get more of those patients coming through that week.
Yeah, exactly.
And that gives you encouragement to keep doing it.
Exactly. And I think it's also important to state that, like, kind of like in the way you build your website, maybe you have the top 10 or 15 things you really like to treat. One things you get asked a lot is like, so like, what do I write about or what should I put in my newsletter? And those top or 10 or 15 things you have on your website are the perfect opportunity to link to those pages. So, you don't really have to spend too much time recreating that content. Maybe you just use AI or some way to condense that down into that 100 or 150 words in that little segment of the newsletter and then link to it. But it can be a really great way to do it. And, it's not something where, if you have, 12 topics or 12 pages on your website about these different treatments or diagnoses, that's, you're sitting at one email a month. Like, there's your first year just right there. So it's not something that you
Yeah.
should be too stressed out about trying to find that content, especially with educational stuff for your email newsletter.
I saw somebody else did a video on this, not podiatry related, but just content in general. And they said, if you've been around for a number of years and you've got a website, you've probably got videos on a YouTube channel, you've probably got content on your website, you've written blog articles, you've got so much information already there. You don't have to keep reinventing more stuff. Have a look at what you've already got and just go, can I just rewrite that? Can it be repurposed? Can I take part of this blog article and turn it into a video, or take that video and get it transcribed into a blog article. So think about what you've already got. And like you said, there's your content for at least your first year.
No, absolutely. Like, I think a lot of people fear the kind of blank page and they think they have to like, start everything from scratch every single time. And that's just not the case. So, you have all, like you said, your website, your YouTube channel, maybe your Facebook, your reviews. There's a lot of content to pull from that you probably already have for your clinic. So just make sure you're using it to the best of your best of your ability, because there's no reason to have to try to reinvent the wheel again if you already have that stuff. And maybe some of that stuff needs to be slightly updated. And by, going back to it and
Mm.
reading it on your website while you're kind of crafting something for your newsletter, maybe you're making that, content better for your website, or you're talking to your marketing person about, oh, I'd like to have this change made. So it helps. A newsletter can help keep content fresh kind of throughout your entire online presence per se.
Yeah, but you and I both do that. I know your newsletter that comes out, a lot of the information that's in that is based on previous episodes that we've done. I know some of my videos, if I'm there, sometimes I'll have something that is just top of mind. I want to talk about it. But if I ever get stuck, I go back to look at one of the 600 videos I've done in the past, and I go, what was that about? That was 4 years ago. That needs to be, and I refresh it and I just do it again. So repurpose.
No, repurposing is huge. And like you said, like you just jog your memory a little bit and you'll have something there, and it's going to go by and make something, you sometimes it helps your own thinking, the kind of also the way that you approach a problem. If the more kind of go back to it and think, why did I think of it that way? It's not just like set it and forget it and it becomes a stale idea. It's just something that you can constantly improve and kind of iterate on.
Yeah, and to give you the power of newsletters too, to give you an example, I get a newsletter every week from this place called Barbecues Galore. It's a local shop. Also get another one now from F&Q Outdoors. But the place I used to class as my barbecue shop, Cairns Barbecue Company, their newsletters are so sporadic. You get one month, and then it'll be 3 or 4 months later before you get another one. And every time I'm in the shop, I go, will you just pull your finger out and do a monthly newsletter around the same time every month? I said, it's really starting to annoy me. And they went, oh, we don't have time. I go, I know. I walked in here, you're both just sitting behind your computers. I said, it doesn't take that long to do. I've been bugging these guys for months and months and months about doing newsletter. They just haven't done it. And so then, because I then don't, so when I get the news out and they tell me what's new, I have a tendency to go and buy that. Oh, there's a new source, a new rub that I can use. Because they haven't sent me anything, I've been getting emails from these other places, email newsletters, reading through and go, oh, that looks interesting. And then all of a sudden I found myself going there a little bit more often. And then I bought a barbecue there last weekend. And I feel like I've done the dirty on them. But it's because they were top of mind. The other places, these newsletters are coming here, and all of a sudden they promoted something that's exactly the grill that I was looking for to do something with.
There you go.
That's why podiatry, if you don't do it, they might end up coming across somebody else's newsletter and go, there's a new podiatrist in town.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that not everyone owns the market. It was last week. Okay, Jim, what's next?
Yeah. So the second part of a newsletter, when you structure it, it should be trying to find ways to show your community involvement. This is whether this is, sponsoring a local sports team, or, maybe you're volunteering at a local road race or a diabetes walk. By showing this, involvement, it's important because it's going to build a positive image for you and for your staff and for your clinic. It really kind of strengthens patient relationships. When they see that you're an active member of the community, it's going to build a lot of goodwill for you and for your practice. So it's really important that maybe it's photos, maybe it's kind of talking about some event you took part in. Maybe, like I said, like maybe it's a write-up about why you're sponsoring little Timmy's soccer team, and how you're inspired to do that. But, when you demonstrate this commitment to the community, then the community will be committed to you as well. So it's really, really important to consider, sponsoring local activities, and kind of not being shy to like let people know that you are an involved member of the community.
I think it's actually one of the most important parts of your newsletter, to let them know if you've done something in the community, or also using it to let people know what's coming up. in the community.
No, exactly. Like a community
It's because
calendar.
some people may rely when they get your newsletter and they realize, oh, I didn't know that was on. Then all of a sudden your newsletter becomes an important resource to them. They don't have to go searching for this stuff now. You've done all the hard work for them, and it'll be something that they look forward to reading because they know it's going to be updated information.
No, absolutely. Like just the more you can keep them informed and more kind of engaged with you and the community, I think it's a win-win. And like I said, it's not just about, it doesn't necessarily have to always be about podiatry specific topics, right? Showing a little bit of staff experience, showing some personal anecdotes. I'm not sure if I'd share, barbecues and burgers and stuff in the email newsletter, but
I would, but that's just me.
there's different people. But if you want to show your personality, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just kind of a matter of like, how do you want to show kind of who you are and definitely kind of like, I like to, kind of be on the side of more community involvement, but it's an opportunity there in the middle of the newsletter to show who you are, and what your clinic is about, whether it be being involved in the community or connecting with people on different other levels. So.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't just post a photo of, hey, this is Tyson eating another hamburger. But
I think you may
Sam,
have
who
an
used to
idea
work for us,
there.
Sam, who used to work for us, was a really good cook. And I said, oh, can you do do you want to do a recipe? And that ended up being a very popular part of our newsletter
Sure.
as well. And if we weren't doing the recipe, had somebody else do a rum review from the Rum Wench, and she would put together a bit, and with patients that would come in and go, oh, you saved my bacon because my husband's birthday came up. Your newsletter came through. I read that thing. I know he likes rum, so I went and bought him that bottle. And he said it was absolutely fantastic. So it's funny mixing these things up so that your newsletter isn't always really predictable too. Sparks that interest.
Absolutely. I think it's really, really important to show some personality. Like I said, also let people know that it's not just about you in the clinic. It's also about the community and the people that, how you interact with the community is super, super important.
Yep. Okay. What would you have in the last
Yeah.
section?
So in the last section, I never would put it front and center, and definitely an email newsletter should not be about like make appointment, because that's just going to drive people away. If they know that the first thing they're going to see when they open up your newsletter is like, click to schedule button like right away. But I think in the third section of the newsletter, it is okay to, maybe highlight that you have a new modality and that you have openings for it, or you're seeing, you're doing something interesting and open for new patient visits. It can be a great way to help promote the services you have in your clinic. So it's going to help fill your schedule. It's going to kind of provide some convenience for patients to know, what you're doing and, that you are open to new patients. Because sometimes people will feel like, oh, they came into your waiting room. Oh, you must be so busy. But maybe that they came on a busy day, or maybe there's a very specific
Yeah.
demographic of patient you're looking to attract. Having that third section be kind of dedicated to getting more of those patients in the door can be a really helpful thing. So it's really, in my mind, it's kind of best practice to put that availability there kind of in the third slot, and really kind of clear and concise language. Obviously, that kind of call to action with a button that links back to either your booking system or a way to make a phone call. Maybe you have some kind of promotions going on, or there's something, you're having a contest or something that will try to pull people into the practice. But that's a really good place to put it there.
No, it's I do think, but we always say when you're writing a blog article, there's got to be a call to action. So to me, when you're doing a newsletter, you're not doing it just out of the goodness of your heart. There's a marketing purpose behind it. So you've got to use that, but be subtle. Because I know I've had newsletters from people that are so forward with for them pretty much saying, Tyson, we want your business. Oh, and by the way, here's some stuff you can look at. And they are off-putting. So I think, having it towards the end, let them enjoy the newsletter, and then if they want to make an appointment, they can. And by then too, they may have already, if you've had an article that was of interest, they've already clicked on that, gone to your website, and may have already taken action.
No,
So you're getting them in two spots.
no, exactly. It's just trying to get that to make it engaging and kind of keep it the balance right. If it's, you don't want to be just like all information and no opportunity for them to interact or make an appointment. But at the same time, you kind of have to like kind of balance it out a little bit to make sure that, the primary objective is kind of information and to engage them. And if they want to take that next step, that you have that available for them. but it shouldn't be beating them over the head with it. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So let's do a big Jim Mac recap.
Yeah. So the recap, I would say, is, the key points being first section, education, second section focused on community involvement, and third, being on kind of appointment availability. So if you make an engaging newsletter, like I said, you're gonna have a lot of content from your website and probably some of your other, pillars, maybe some of your social channels or other places, maybe some blog posts you've written, as you brought up, Tyson. But you want to encourage, readers of your newsletter to engage with you. And, obviously you test around some different topics, you see that people really like that, you're volunteering at a community event, or they're really curious about heel pain. There's ways to kind of make additional content that's different, but still on a very similar topic. So, consider those kinds of things when you're making these things. I would say that whatever mail provider you're using is going to have analytics. So you're going to be able to see the number of clicks and how many people clicked over to your website to make an appointment and do those kind of things, because they had all that stuff built into that software. So make sure you utilize some of those analytics softwares to make sure you know what your patients are engaging with, and then you can kind of craft, both educational, community involvement, and appointment availability content that really suits the needs of your audience.
Yeah, and one final thing I want to say about the newsletters too, when you're doing it, is our brain has a tendency to overvalue losses and undervalue wins. So if you're sending it out to 1,000 people and 5 people unsubscribe, that's a win. Don't focus on the 5 people that unsubscribe. Look at the 995 who did not unsubscribe, because if your newsletter is turning up in their inbox, and even if they don't open it, as long as they're not unsubscribing, it means they're seeing you, and that isn't just another form of marketing.
Absolutely. That keeping you top of mind is kind of the name of the game, and, providing some helpful information for them is, a secondary important thing as well.
Okay, so you got anything else on this before we wrap
No,
up?
that's it, Tyson.
Okay, so just a reminder, people, if you're enjoying this podcast, please consider giving us a rating review. Everyone that does is going to get a trip to Hawaii on Jim. Jim's going to pay for that. So just remember, you do a rating review for us, Jim will send you to Hawaii.
I'll have to run that by my
not.
wife. I'm not sure I've got the
Oh, yeah.
funds, but once we get over 1 million subscribers of podiatry marketing, maybe we'll consider that.
Wouldn't it be funny? I reckon if all of a sudden you said to everyone, hey, do a rating review, and you go into the draw for a trip to Hawaii, all of a sudden people go, oh, you know what? I'm going to do a rating review. So if you do it for a trip to Hawaii, get off your bum and do the rating review now. Just do it while it's there. And you never know. Down the track, we might pick a random winner and send them off somewhere exotic, like Darwin.
Yeah,
in
you never know.
Australia, or yeah. Okay, Jim. Been fun talking to you again, and I look forward to talking to you
Sounds
next
great,
week.
Tyson.
Okay,
Bye now.
bye.